Well, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning for a lot of you, I know. Good afternoon from me. I'm in central London at the moment. And today we're going to be talking about nutrition, how to eat healthy without breaking the bank. So I know a lot of you were hoping for this one, and the last session was meant to be this, and there was a bit of a mix up. So I'm really sorry about that. But we have got this for you today, and I hope it's going to be really insightful for you and actionable. So this one should be one that you can actually use this information in your day-to-day lives as well. That's my goal, as well as giving you a bit more of a background about affordable nutrition around the world. So just quickly about me, I know a lot of you have already been to my seminars, but I'm a registered nutritionist or registered associate nutritionist, and I have a background in particularly personalized nutrition, so looking at genetics and gut health and blood sugar and all those kind of personalized metrics to help people optimize their own health. I also work as a consultant for personalized nutrition companies as well. But really, I love every area of nutrition, and I love talking about this topic because even though I do work with, more of the precision nutrition and really people tweaking their diet to get those real extra kind of the extra 10% maybe of energy or vitality, but actually a lot of it is really the foundations, and that's always where I start from with clients, is making sure we're working on the absolute basics, because a lot of people aren't doing that, and they think that the key is in a certain pill or a test, but often what people are missing is the foundations, which we're going to talk about today. So my objectives for this session today, so I'm going to help educate you on these practical ways to achieve balanced nutrition, particularly on a budget as well. So, and highlighting the importance of particularly nutrient-dense foods that are cost-effective. So what I would pick out in the supermarket to get the most bang for my buck when it comes to nutrition, and then actionable tips for meal planning, shopping, and cooking efficiently. And we'll have a good amount of time for questions at the end. So just store those up. If you do have any questions, just do make a note of them, and I'll be happy to answer those alongside my colleague today. So this statistic of 63% of people believe that healthy eating is too expensive. And maybe you can put a thumbs up in the comments if you also think that, or a thumbs down if you don't. Or maybe it would go the other way around. Well, put a thumbs up if you agree with that statistic. You think healthy eating is too expensive. But I believe simple changes can reduce the cost significantly when it comes to this. And I promise you, healthy eating doesn't have to be expensive, although we might believe it does even from the media, from marketing, all these kind of influences we see around us. But what I always say is that there's not much money to be made from selling or advertising the benefits of apples and oranges, bananas, because we all know that they are nutritious, but there's no money for companies. There's no, it's not like they're a branded product. And that's why, we often forget the basics, because there's not as much money to be made from the food industry. So the benefits really are significant of eating healthy. Just to reiterate, as I'm sure you know, that a large amount of illness in the world is due to poor diets, and that is linked to 1 in 5 deaths globally. And I think this will be right. Well, it is rising, and certainly that's the case more in some parts of the world than others. But overall, in the UK, I know that healthcare costs are 268 billion annually. So that's particularly linked to those preventable illnesses. So first, let's debunk some myths that healthy eating is basically means that you have to eat premium price products. That's certainly not the case. I think marketing and food industry would have you believe that sometimes, because we all see all these marketing claims, high in protein, high in fiber, but often those products really are hugely inflated from, say, your can of chickpeas, which would give you the exact same levels of high fiber or high protein, but we don't see all those marketing claims on the front of those tins. And also that fresh food is better than frozen food. Now, in a lot of cases, this is just not the case. It's actually more the opposite, that frozen food and frozen fruits and vegetables are quickly frozen once they're harvested. So they actually lock in the nutrition rather than fresh food, which actually can stay on the shelves for many days and deteriorate, as I'm sure you've seen when you go shopping. Often you see all these fruits and veg which actually haven't kept their freshness. And that organic food is necessary for good health. That's certainly not true. Although organic food sometimes does have lower levels of pesticides, actually studies show that organic food doesn't necessarily have a higher nutrient density or has a higher nutrient value than just your regular non-organic food. There are some foods which can be more worthwhile going for in terms of them being organic. You can look at the Dirty Dozen, which is released by I think it's the World Health Organization. They release that every year with the sort of the higher pesticide foods. So those can be more worthwhile, but a lot of foods aren't necessarily a lot better really when they're organic. And obviously the price tag is a lot higher, often sometimes even up to double the price. And the main thing is that you're getting those fruits and veg in my opinion, and not worrying about whether they're organic or not so much. So in terms of affordable eating, I mean, it's showing that it costs about £3 to £4 per person in the UK to have a healthy diet, to meet all the dietary recommendations. I would say even potentially less than that if you're really smart with shopping and meal prepping, but that's what the research says. And then the global cost of a healthy diet averages $3.54. Now I know the poverty line is $1.70 something, gotten the number, but see for a lot of people around the world, that's still not going to be achievable to have a healthy diet, unfortunately, at that cost. So there is really still work to be done to get that cost down, to make it accessible to everyone. And then watch out for marketing traps. Like I've already mentioned, branded health foods can cost up to 50 to 100% more. I think even more than that, sometimes up to 3 times as much, more than generic or unbranded alternatives. And then they don't have much more significant benefits either. I'm going to give you some examples. So I did a educational video about this the other day, about these 2 yogurts particularly. So in the UK we have this brand called Activia. They're like a gut health company really. They advertise these yogurts which are supposedly really good for your gut health because they contain a strain of live cultures and probiotics. However, when looking at this own brand yogurt, or any live natural yogurt, is usually the cheapest yogurt you can get, but it actually contains naturally live strains of probiotics, but it wouldn't tell you on the packet. It should. Unless you look at the back of the packet, you can't see that it actually contains those probiotics. I should have taken a screenshot because I took a photo of the back of this yogurt, where you can see it says contains live strains of, and then look for like lactobacillus, bifidobacterium. Those are usually the strains that will be in there. And you also don't have any of the artificial sugars that are in Activia. And you can see the price difference, like particularly look at per 100 grams. I mean, we're looking at nearly 6 times as much, or say 5 times as much for the branded product. Plus, you don't get anything rubbish in this one. So this for me is an obvious example of where you can go for an own brand product, and you just have to ignore the marketing claims sometimes. Not just look at the front of a packet, but also look at the back. So now going on to some of the things that really should be at the top of your mind when you're thinking about your food shops and planning for your meals is, well, staples, for example, like beans and rice. They provide a full amino acid protein profile for us. So it's beans and rice together are complete. They provide all the amino acids to build protein in the body. So it's a very cheap meal, but it is nutritionally quite relatively balanced, particularly from that protein standpoint and fiber, and only costs about 50 cents to $1 per serving. And you think of takeouts, I don't know about you, but in the UK, the cost of getting any kind of takeout or meal in a restaurant is just getting more and more and more. It's getting higher, and the food portions also seem to be getting smaller too. So that just shows you, obviously it's quite obvious, but the difference in price between preparing your own meals and going for takeout. And seasonal produce can actually be up to half the price of out of season fruit and veg. So you can find this out from looking on the internet, what foods are in season, and plan your meals accordingly. Also, they're going to be more nutritionally, or they're going to be higher in nutritional value as well when they're in season. It's the best time to eat them. And thinking about different sources of protein, we know that meat and fish is a lot more expensive than plant-based protein, but the next best option, if you're not so keen on plant-based proteins like legumes and beans and pulses, is going for eggs, because they are a lot cheaper. About 6 grams of protein per egg, so but still does work out cheaper than going for meat cuts generally. Another one that's quite interesting is salmon. I know we often think when we need oily fish to go for salmon, but salmon is actually really a lot more expensive than other oily fish options like mackerel or trout. And those mackerel and trout actually generally has more omega-3 in than salmon. So that's a good option as well to go for. So I would base your meals on these nutrient-dense staples like oats, beans, lentils, rice, frozen veg, all high in fiber, and so are going to really keep you full as well. And seasonal produce as well, and then your affordable proteins. Oh, canned fish as well is a lot cheaper too. Canned salmon, maybe not quite as delicious, but it is a lot cheaper. And then tofu as well is a really I personally have tofu probably every day almost as a complete source of protein, and other plant-based options. So, and also a lot better for the environment as well to be moving a little bit more to a plant-based diet. So this is a UK statistic, but in the UK, the average household wastes 60 pounds worth of food each month. Did you know that bread is the #1 most thrown away food? And I definitely am guilty of that sometimes. Bread does often go in the bin, but I now freeze it to try and stop that waste happening. And also frozen bread, a little nutrition tip there is that when you freeze bread and then you toast it or eat it, it's actually going to be higher in what's called resistant starch. So it's actually going to reduce the blood sugar effect of that carbohydrate. So frozen and thawed carbohydrates like potatoes and bread, once they're cooked and cooled and reheated, yeah, it kind of lowers that blood sugar response, and it's really good for our gut health as well, because that resistant starch is really good food for our gut bacteria. And canned versus fresh, we just touched on this, but they're often 30 to 70% cheaper when they're canned, and they're just as nutritious as well. And then frozen versus fresh, 30 to 50% cheaper, if not more. And then, like I said, they're flash frozen at their peak ripeness, so they preserve most of their vitamins and minerals. So easier said than done sometimes, but make sure you try and plan your meals to minimize waste. Shop sales, I personally go to the reduced section a lot in my supermarkets. I know what time that they reduce their foods, and that allows me to go for slightly more expensive foods maybe than I would normally, like salmon or steak and things like that. And bulk buy, of course, when you got those offers on, make advantage of those, compare prices. And then frozen canned foods, definitely rely on those for their shelf life and just affordability. This is an example of fresh versus frozen, the price difference. So you can see it's less than half the price when you buy them frozen. Well, I have to say, frozen blueberries aren't always quite as nice as fresh. And then preparing meals in bulk has been shown to reduce weekly food costs by 25 to 30%, which is quite impressive. So maybe even just preparing the carbohydrates is what I often advise clients to do. So things that take the longest to cook are often maybe where people fall short when they're trying to eat healthily, is because it's easier to just pick something that's easy and ready to eat, grab and go. But things like quinoa, bulgur wheat, or like just carbohydrate that takes a bit longer to cook is a really good one to just batch cook, put it in Tupperware, and then you can mix and match your protein and vegetables as you wish through the week, so you don't get bored of your meal prep as well. And also batch cooking can save an average of 2 to 3 hours per week compared to cooking each meal individually. So that's quite significant. I do struggle to find time to batch cook, but I'm always grateful when I do. And if you're really busy in the mornings when you're trying to get out of the house and you just usually don't find time for breakfast, something I do is prep smoothie bags. So I put everything in for my smoothie, all the chia seeds, flax seeds, frozen fruit, protein powder. So it's ready to just chuck in the blender with some milk and good to go. So that's another tip for you. So these are some watch out points, particularly that I would be careful of when you're going shopping. So I don't know if you've seen those protein bars like Quest or Grenade, but they are really expensive. They can be like, £2 to £3 each at least. But you can make your own, definitely for under £1 per serving, easily. And you don't have any of the added rubbish, basically, that's often in those. You have things like sugar alcohols, which people often are very sensitive to, can cause a lot of bloating and gas. And if you create your own, you don't have any of that rubbish. You can really control what's in there. And then for like granola muesli, they can be really expensive as well. And often they have really good marketing. They've got like superfood infused ingredients, organic, but they come with a price tag. And I make my own granola, and it's so much easier. Like, well, not so much easier, so much healthier, and it is easy to do. And you can pick and mix your ingredients as well, which is great. Plant-based milks are getting more expensive too. Oatly, Outpro, I don't know if you have these brands where you are, they're two popular brands here, and they can be up to £2.50 per litre. And I would always go for the supermarket brand options. I get soy milk for 50p a litre, and they're generally a lot better because they also don't have emulsifiers in, and they are usually still fortified because they have to be by law. So generally they don't have the marketing on them. Smoothie packs, like I said, you can prep these yourselves, but you can also buy them from the supermarket for a lot more. And they are, often really good with their marketing, trying to sell you that they're detox, antioxidant rich. But just make them at home. It's you can even get superfood powders to put in yourself, which like acai powder or something, and it's still going to be a lot less than what you pay for in the supermarket. Now, these little snack packs that you often see, I think, when you're putting your food through the checkouts, are really expensive. They are usually quite a small portion as well. And it's good that they do have those healthier options, but honestly, it's often cheaper to just get sweets or chocolate. So it's no wonder a lot of people would choose that instead, because a small pack of like almonds might cost you £1.50, say like $2. And if you can prep, again, it's forward thinking, pre-thinking and planning, having those packs with you of like mixed nuts and seeds and fruit or dried fruit. And then the yogurts, like I mentioned earlier, these gut health yogurts, like 3 times, well, the other one was 5 times more expensive than natural live yogurt, and both contain these live probiotics, but natural yogurt has no sweeteners in. This is an example of a menu which would cost under £4 per person. So sorry, I haven't converted that to dollars, but I'm not sure of the exchange rate at the moment, but yeah, you could say $4 or around about there. So porridge with fruit. Oats, I try and go for the jumbo oats, the not the rolled oats, because they are a bit more processed and they can cause a bit more of a blood sugar spike. And then mix it with water, milk, banana, frozen berries, and your cost comes to about 50p. And it's a pretty balanced breakfast as well. You've got fiber, vitamins, and a good sustained energy release as well from the oats. Although I would say that might not be enough protein for some people. So you could add in some yogurt to that porridge instead to boost the protein a little bit more. So I personally find that porridge doesn't keep me very full unless I add protein in there as well. And then lentil and vegetable soups. Soups are one of my favorite ways to pack in all the veg and all the nutrients for not very much money, and you can't really go wrong as well with soup. So lentils are one of the best sources of cheap nutrition and fiber. So yeah, overall you can see this only costs about 70p a portion. A snack idea, eggs for 20p each, and your cucumber, and you got a snack for 40p, which would probably cost you, I'm going to say, about $3 from, like, I don't know if you have Pret. It's like a convenience food place. We have like a healthy convenience food shop we have here, and it's very expensive. So something like that would cost, yeah, easily $3, $4. And for dinner, you could go for yeah, stir-fried rice, vegetables, and egg. You could add some more protein in there, like in the photo, there's some meat in there for not much more money, but overall, yeah, just 65p. Then you got yourself a balanced dinner. For dessert, if you fancy it after all that, you can go for your natural live yogurt with honey, maybe some chopped walnuts on top, could be nice. And it's only going to set you back about 50 pence. And you've got your calcium and probiotics in there from that. And a bit of a shorter presentation from me today, so we have plenty of time for questions. And please do let me know